Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to the Bi-Weekly Report. As you have seen, we have unveiled our new YouTube video series on game reviews with a piece on the old school classic Blitzkrieg. While our team is already at work on new videos, you can weigh in and suggest tank games for us to review. In other internal news, we are not doing so well on the financial side. Due to various issues, a small number of our patrons had to withdraw, and our current income is not enough to cover our monthly illustration expenses. While we currently have some reserve funds and ready illustrations which will keep us going at the current rate for a couple of months, we won't be able to keep up this current rhythm after that. So, please consider donating on our Patreon, and even $1 a month goes a long way to help us keep going. And if you don't like Patreon, you can make direct donations to our PayPal account at tanks.encyclopedia@gmail.com. Every bit helps. This week from the archive, we have a letter that passed over the desk of Prime Minister Winston Churchill. It was mentioning an idea that everyone had previously thought was a joke. For many years, the British comedy Dad's Army had an armored van used by Jones the Butcher for transporting the platoon around. This van retained its livery of its civilian owner. Tank Encyclopedia also did a fake article. Well, it might not be as fake as everyone thought. In this letter, discovered by David Lister, a mining engineer named Chester Beatty suggests that Q vans could be built. The name references the tactic from the First World War of Q ships. These were merchant ships with concealed guns that would sail around looking vulnerable, and when a German raider or submarine approached to sink them, they would suddenly unmask their guns and destroy the raider. Well, the proposed Q vans were similar in that idea. These were one of the many small commercial vans that the British civilian population owned. They would be fitted with armor inserts, much like Jones' van from Dad's Army. Then, during any German paratrooper landings, these vans would be manned by Home Guard and drive towards the German soldiers pretending to be innocent and defenseless, until in a position to open fire on the startled Germans. There is no evidence this scheme was ever carried out, but it was certainly considered at the highest levels. Whilst on the subject of Home Guard vehicles, David Lister wishes to ask for help from any of you budding historians. In David Fletcher's book, The Great Tank Scandal, on page 53, David Fletcher is talking about Home Guard armored vehicles. He mentions a Home Guard vehicle from Birmingham mounting a Blacker Bombard. David Lister would like to hear from anyone who has a source from this. You can contact us through our Tank Encyclopedia Discord community page. For our book review, we'll have a look at An Army at Dawn by Rick Atkinson, the first book in the Liberation trilogy. An Army at Dawn covers the often overlooked fighting in Western North Africa, starting with the landings in Algeria and Morocco and up to the final victory over the German troops on the continent, with a distinct focus on the American side of things. Far from being the usual glorification of war of the U.S. Army, the author presents the campaign with its debacles, disasters, and small catastrophes. Poorly conceived operations and attacks, slow reaction times, and an entirely convoluted command structure are presented throughout, along with their inescapable consequence: thousands of young men dying. Still, the U.S. Army takes the punches from the far more experienced Wehrmacht, and although bruised, comes out on top and a better fighting force for it. The book is highly graphic and personal, using personal unit diaries and other sources to paint a broad picture, easily jumping through the ranks from Roosevelt, Churchill, and Eisenhower to actions by platoons or individual soldiers. However, the author does sometimes seem to embellish or dramatize certain small details, but it only serves to draw in the reader more. This book has won a Pulitzer Prize, and at only $4.50 in its electronic version on Amazon, this is a highly recommended read for fans of World War II history and of the U.S. Army. The first article we will be covering this week involves the Flak Panzer IV, also known as the Wirbelwind. This variant, built upon the Panzer IV tank chassis, was designed to provide mobile anti-air defense capability to panzer divisions. Several attempts at creating an effective anti-air vehicle had already been attempted through the Flak Panzer I, the Flak Panzer 38T, and the Mobilwagen. However, a desire for a vehicle with sufficient firepower, mobility, and protection eventually led to the development of the Wirbelwind. It is estimated that between 87 to 150 of them were built and proved to be a highly effective weapon on the battlefield. The Wirbelwind was praised for its effectiveness against not only air targets, but soft ground targets as well, and they were in use until the end of the war. Unfortunately, low production numbers limited the impact this vehicle had on the war. 2 survived to this day, one in Canada and the other in Germany. This article was written by Marco Pentelik and illustrated by David Bokale. The second article to mention is of the Panzerwagen II Ausführung Skoda. This prototype was built by the Skoda factory, dubbed the T-15 originally, and then changed to the Panzerwagen II Ausführung Skoda. This prototype featured welded armor, a 37mm cannon, a 245 horsepower petrol engine, and 4 large road wheels on a semi-elliptic leaf spring. 4 prototypes were built in total, and even though they went through testing, construction and development ceased in 1944 due to the Panzer II Aufsatzluks already achieving mass production. This article was written by Craig Moore and illustrated by Mr. Adrielche. Other articles include Sabek's HIFV, the M226 CCRV, and the FMC M113 electric test drive bed. You can find all these articles and more on our website. That's all for this report. Make sure to follow our website. We'll be releasing new articles on the regular. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Reddit. If you use Discord, there's a link to our community server in the description. And if you would like to help us to continue to develop and expand, consider donating on Patreon. All of the funds will be used to help us enhance and design new articles and features for you. I'm Nathaniel, and until next time, keep us in your sights.